Um, I always appreciate your refreshing, seeing yourself clearly and sharing where you're at and having a desire to get further. Um, just a few moments ago, you caught yourself, right, trying to go fast, and you verbalized that. You're like, oh, here I am trying to fill things up and accelerate, and then you comforted yourself. You reoriented to like, oh yeah, here I am again. Okay, they're doing good. I want to do better. Um, what was that experience for you as you did it in real time? Did you have sensations in your body? Did you have emotions? How did you know like you were going down a certain route and you chose a different one?
A really good question. I I think in language, and I noticed the words I was saying. I noticed the words I was saying, and I was like, yeah, and it wasn't. I was basically saying it wasn't enough, and I have an emotional reaction to if I'm not enough. I think a lot of us do. I mean, yeah, talk about one of those first words. I was like, empty. This isn't enough. I've run out. This isn't. I'm searching for value. When I notice myself doing that, I just know the pattern that I have, which is what I'm doing isn't enough. If I'm saying like I should be getting there faster, I should be closing this deal, I should have learned this by now. I'm never going to make it to quota, like whatever those things are. Whatever it is that I say that's leading to that, like it could be something as like, oh, this is a really slow quarter. Really what I'm saying is I'm not going to get there fast enough. And I'm already I just know the pattern that again, this is me personally. Although I would say I see this in a lot of salespeople, which is the cyclical quarter pattern of what happens to you during those 3 months. Or if you're on an annual cycle, like what happens to you over those 12 months? Or if you're on a monthly cycle, what happens to you over those 30 days? Like watch your pattern, because I know what mine is. It's the second I start going like I'm not enough, I'll start being like, oh, what can I do? And some people do something else. They'll be like, they start seeing that they're not going to get there and they absolutely freeze. They stop communicating. Personally, I have gotten better at noticing the words that I use. Like in that example you brought up where I was saying, I wanted to get there faster. Oh, God, there I am doing it again.
Hmm.
I want to get to the end. So me personally, like I will notice the words I use. But when I was working with other reps, like I would notice a lot of things. It's easy, it's hard to do with yourself, easy to do with other people. So reps, if you're out there and you're like, my manager's always getting on me about this, it's like, don't worry, your manager also has problems. We all do. It's just easy to see that stuff in other people. And when I was working with other reps, I would notice all the time these everybody want, and again, the metrics are important, activity is important. Hey, you're not making as many calls, you're not in enough deals, your deals aren't, all those things are also important. And the emotional tells also really matter, of people as they start to shut down, or as people as they start to make excuses, people as they start to replace inactivity with wild activity that isn't really focused on anything. Like I've seen SDRs where they'll be like, I'll just make like 100,000 calls and it doesn't matter if they don't pick up. My call number's up. It's like, that's not the goal. Like wild activity also isn't the answer. No activity also isn't the answer. And so for me, understanding that emotional quotient of, oh, I'm doing that thing again because I'm uncomfortable. It's okay. You do that all the time, Kevin. You do that all the time. And just like having that grace and that moment to say, let me not have, because we were talking about this when you were describing a story of stopping someone, and you'd given, I can't remember what the advice was, but you had given some advice and you said, well, did you follow it? And they said no. You said, well, tell me why. Let's break that down. Why didn't you? Well, because they wouldn't have liked it. They wouldn't have liked, I think it was about price. It was about, just give me the price. It's like, well, I gave them the price because they would have been upset with me if I didn't. And it's like, let's talk about why that might have felt more comfortable in the moment, but ultimately will lead you to the more uncomfortable answer that probably they weren't interested. Probably you should disqualify it out. So, again, the ability to self-regulate some of that, because I'm an emotional person and I have emotional reactions. Most salespeople do. Like I've noticed that I need to do that, because otherwise, it's, again, especially in the alone virtual world, working alone, like I will dig my own emotional grave, and then I won't be as effective.
This is like a master class for managing emotional triggers and seeing emotional tells for reps and so rep managers. I'd like to kind of go back though. So you're a very heady guy in the sense that you're very smart and just really clear. And so for you, you said that your tell when you were doing it, just when we were talking, was the words you're using. So that to me, that's an amazing, beautiful hack, right? And then I saw you comfort yourself. Like I felt your heart open to yourself. And I had a feeling when I was witnessing that. And I'm just curious, once you become aware of the words and you came back to yourself, were you aware of any of the emotions or feelings in your body? And then how did it feel when you comforted yourself?
Yeah, and I am heady and I talk a lot. It's something I know about myself. And so it's been easy for me to notice in the words. And I talk about this with my therapist a lot, where there's this difference between like I will literally be in my head. Like the physical feeling would be like I'm up in my head, like I'm in my eyes, I'm thinking out of my mouth, and it's very physically in my head. And then I'll be like here, like it's like that. It's what is it? It's 12 inches from your head to your heart, but it's a long way to drop. It's like there's just a sinking back into one's body and a level of comfort that I it's a physical feeling of not trying to convince myself or others with my words that I'm right. Um, I I notice this so much as well, like that difference between physically like feeling like I'm in my head, I'm like in my eyes, I'm in my hands trying to explain something, I'm in my mouth trying to like work fast. If I'm ever like losing a deal or feel threatened in a deal and someone say like, well, you better essentially for lack of a better word or being specific, kind of, you better explain yourself, your competitor's doing this, you better explain, your price is real expensive, better explain yourself, we're thinking of walking away, and you're like, no, let me explain a bunch of stuff. um like that's all in the head. It's all like, in my objective behind which is I've got to convince them to do a different thing, as opposed to like just for like when, and again, to use a different scenario, when I'm comfortable in a deal and I know I'm going to win, and I'm with the person on the other side and we're just talking about where their company needs to go and how my side can help. That those kinds of conversations, when you're really laughing with somebody and you're really planning and you're really engaged, it's a totally different in the body feeling of, oh cool, what are we going to do next? It's like the feeling of sitting on a couch relaxed with your friends when you're talking about the week to come or whatever it is, or the week that was, and you're just communicating as opposed to trying to convince people of stuff. And that difference, heady and long-winded way of saying it's like there's this difference between very tight cerebral, I gotta explain it, gotta talk real fast, gotta think on my feet, versus like from the heart of just connecting with somebody. And in that case where they're saying, hey, maybe we got to walk away, maybe we got to make a different price, your competitor's doing this, like, okay, tell me about that. I don't have to convince you, tell me about it, you can walk away anytime.
Wow. So you are aware of the sensations in your body and the connectedness to emotions and the kind of resources that come when you're in that space. You just described it pretty clearly.
I think in this moment where we're focusing on it, yes, but I know that I personally have a lot of work to do of being able to tap into that in the moment. Because when I'm on, the equivalent of being on stage, I tend to go into performance mode, and I don't necessarily have that 360 awareness to go, oh, here's where that's happening again. I tend to just perform, and sometimes the performance is one way versus another. But I'm on the path. I'm getting towards having that be a little more instinctual, to just be able to drop back in.
It's it's fascinating. So like we're talking here, it's a podcast. You're performing in a way, and I saw you become aware of doing it, reacting to that thought of empty, not fast enough, not, and you dropped into your body. I saw it, and you went into compassion, and you got perspective, and then you just continued on super clear, with wisdom, and that's pretty phenomenal in the moment awareness, and you found it out by the words you're using, but then it became an integrated full Kevin experience.
Yeah. Thanks for noticing that. Feels good to be seen. I think at our best, we're all trying to do that. And I think it's pretty normal that our objectives coming into a call, to a meeting, to a podcast episode. I mean, luckily, like I don't have a huge agenda today other than talk to you, but I still want to be good. You know, I want to say smart things. I want to, you asked me like, hey, when did you find those challenges? And I started talking about those challenges and I immediately got sucked into them. And I think that for most salespeople, the desire to be good lives somewhere in there. There's not a lot of salespeople, at least who last very long in their career. They're like, I don't really give a shit. Like, whatever, that's not really a successful sales attitude. And so being able to be with that, that reality, it's like, I want to please. And I don't, there's a different level. I mean, we were talking about this previously. I shared this with any of the reps that I work with that won't think I'm a total crock for saying things this way, but there's a spiritual aspect, in my opinion, to sales where it is really easy to just put on this performance face and be a used, like the perspective of the salesperson is the used car salesperson just trying to make a buck. I will sell you any broken car for as high a price as I can convince you to do it. I'm here to screw you over. That persona that we all are so well aware of, when you tell someone, it's like, oh, what do you do? I'm in sales. And you see that person's face change a little bit. That's fine. There is a way to do this job that isn't that. And we all know that. We know when we've sold like that. We've been good, honest salespeople. And I think we all also know when we've been a little on the other side, when we've gone against the principles that we know are right, when we do stretch the truth a little bit or a lot. Like if you've ever done that and you can be honest about it, I know that I have. It's because my objective of getting the deal got in the way of my objective of getting it done. We've all lied in our lives, whatever the context is. And if you're listening to this thinking, I don't do that. It's like, all right, cool. Go do some shadow work. Like figure out what the dark side is. It's fine. Or don't, keep selling however you want to sell. But if you're the kind of person, if you're listening to this podcast and you're down with Walter, probably you want to figure out like who you are in this whole thing. Like I think that's where the juice is. Like in this career, like, can I do it and be honest in the face of, I also have this objective to get deals closed. It's how I get paid. It's how I feed my family. There's nothing wrong with that. And can I always work to never be dishonest first with myself and then with everyone around me? And can I do it in a way that's kind, compassionate, curious, caring? Like all those are hard things to do. And when you do them as a first principle, of a way, I know I'm kind of mixing our words here, but like the first thing I do is if I'm always honest, open, curious, caring, compassionate, and interested in helping someone out if I can, if it also helps me, that's fine. And it's where, again, I'll always be a salesperson, used car salesperson, or that persona. I try not to be. And I think that's where, as you mentioned, the word performance, like, boy, is it easy to put that mask on to protect yourself from what is a challenging and painful career sometimes.